bashir habay hamuun baan kuu qaba hargeysa kuu qaba hargeysa hobay hadiya goor adigan hobay hiigayga laabtiyo hobay mankayga kugu haya hobay haradaan dhammaaniyo hobay hibashiyo hamuun baan hobay kuu qaba hargeysa.
So what I've tried to do is, because of all the privileges I've had, I'm one of the luckiest women in this world. I'm 78 years old. As the Americans say, I'm still kicking butt. Sometimes I have the privilege to deliver, but I teach, and what I want them to learn is not only the technicalities of how to deliver a baby. My grandmother could do that, but to do it professionally, to do it with your heart, to do it in a way that is enjoyable and least damaging to the mother and the baby. And a word that I learned from my father, who remains, although he died over 40 years ago, who remains my role model, is first learn to do it with your heart. If your heart cannot do it, your hands will never learn to do it. So first learn to do it with your heart. And that has served me well. Everything I've done with my heart. And if I'm doing it, I like to go for the long haul. It's not sort of, hit and miss. It's got to be a hit and succeed. And I'm really happy and privileged to be here. I remember my blue and my cuff things, my frills to all my cuffs. I remember my buckle and my blue belt. I remember my badge. All the things that made me so proud, that identified me as a professional nurse or a professional midwife. And you and your grandparents taught me everything I know, and hopefully some of that is spilling out and becoming replicated in my country and on my continent, because what's good for Somaliland is good for every other country on the continent of Africa. And I travel, I get invited to speak, to teach, to show, to explain, and what you've taught me is snowballing into a great big movement that's revitalizing nursing, revitalizing, energizing midwifery. And at the end of it, if it helps our women, if it helps our children, if it helps our community, if it helps the future generation of our continent, thank God, why not? So I'm happy and privileged to be here. I'm an old teacher, I talk a lot. But I'll be happy to make a presentation and share with you some slides and show you a little bit of my hospital. So thank you for inviting me.
It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure.
Thank you.
Is it helpful for us to tell you a little bit about our hospital? I'll invite
yes.
Heather, our wonderful chief nurse, to talk a little bit about nursing and midwifery, because some of the things you're touching on there are very timely for us here in the UK, and Heather will talk more about that. But there's been a lot of debate about whether the heart is still in nursing and midwifery and where the heart went. And we've been working collectively very hard on making sure the heart is absolutely in everything we do. But I'll leave that to my some professional colleagues to talk more about that.
Sorry to interrupt. No, I'm one of the things I notice is that we're depending more on the machine. And the machine, yes, is giving us, data, it's giving us numbers, but it's not giving us that feeling that the midwife has with the mother, that look in the mother's eye, that little pat on the shoulder, that holding her hand, that expression of, I'm here with you, for you, we're in this together. You're in labor, I'm in labor too, because the outcome is for both of us. I want a good delivery to happen, and you want a good delivery to happen. So we must not give up. We must use the machines, but we must not let the machines to use us. We must not forget that we're here in charge of this machine. So sorry, I had to
No,
interrupt.
it's fine. It's absolutely fine, and it's an interesting point that you make. you're sitting in one of our most modern facilities. You know, technology is very important in a hospital, but we don't use a lot of technology in this part of the building, and I'll talk to you a little bit about that. But so our hospitals, we've got 2 hospitals within the organisation. So you're here at St Peter's Trust site, and we also have Ashford Hospital, which is about 10-15 minutes away in the car. And the hospitals came together in a merger around 10 years ago to form the trust. Collectively we serve a population of around 410,000 people, and over the course of the year we will have around 500,000 contacts a year. About 355,000 of those contacts are outpatients and the others are inpatient contacts. So we're very busy. We're the biggest provider of acute services in Surrey, and we are experiencing, much like other hospitals, a very heavy burden on the pathways of care we offer, mostly, I have to say, emanating from the older members of our community. We've got, as you will know, a lengthening demographic. People are living longer, and which is fantastic and a great testament actually to the NHS and the work that it's done over the last 50 or more years, 60 years I think it is actually. But it is placing a heavy burden on the system, and that's something I have to be very aware of. Going back to the point about compassionate care, you know, if we can't create the environment for our colleagues to work in a way that enables them to be compassionate, and that's very difficult. And you know, obviously, I don't know how much you've picked up on the media that's running very high in the press at the moment. Obviously, the industrial action that our junior doctors have been taking around their pay and working conditions.
I'm not aware of it.
So they've been on strike.
Oh no.
And you know, they're very unhappy, and we've got to work through that now and the consequences of that, because that will have a consequence on the quality of care that we're giving. Now, in relation to the midwifery unit, and also very importantly the paediatric unit that's connected, we see around, trying to think, what is it, 30,000 children through our dedicated paediatric A&E facility a year. We're somewhere delivering around 4,200 babies a year through the unit, which is here on this site. Connected to the unit, we have the highest level of neonatal intensive care, a level 3 neonatal intensive care unit. So we provide care to neonates and sick newborns across Kent, Surrey and Sussex, down into the south coast and up into London, depending on what the bed availability is. And you're currently sitting in the parent craft education room for our relatively newly opened birthing centre, which is a dedicated new build that we opened about May time, which aims to provide very low tech, low interventional midwife-led care to mothers presenting with a low complexity birth, in the sense that they're not on a high risk obstetric pathway, and you'll see the facilities for yourself. I'm particularly personally proud of the facilities. When I joined the organisation 6 years ago, there was a business case. I was the chief nurse initially. There was a business case on the stocks to build this building, and it had not been approved. It didn't have board support. It was a significant investment for what was considered to be a relatively low volume of patients. And obviously the board has to make tricky decisions about how we spend our limited funds, but I could see it was a really important thing for us to do. And so, working with my colleagues in the maternity unit, we secured the funding and we built the unit, and we didn't want to build another NHS facility. We wanted to build something remarkable and outstanding. And we have got remarkable and outstanding.
Good for you.
And although I did a lot of the legwork to get the money and make it happen, Teresa and Nikki and others sitting behind, the ladies hiding behind, they have done the work that's made this unit an absolutely phenomenal success, to the point that it's now a place where the mums in Surrey want to come and have their babies, and they'll show you why it's such a remarkable place. How many babies have we had delivered in our unit now?
We're nearly on 1,000. 985.
985. And when was the last baby born in the Aden?
7:45 this morning.
And I mean, I've got some personal experience. Quite recently, some of my colleagues will know my cousin came to have her second child. She lives locally, and she previously had her baby at another local hospital. And then when she fell pregnant the second time, she said, you know, it wasn't so good. Maybe I'd come to your hospital. I think she felt a little bit uncomfortable actually coming and being in the hospital that I'm a very, you know, it's a big part of my life. And I guess I felt slightly anxious about it because I thought, oh goodness me, you know, being a nurse like you and, you know, have some insight into what can happen and what can go wrong. And, you know, I thought, gosh, if anything happens to her, the rest of my family are going to hate me forever. But anyway, I had confidence in the team here, and she came and had her baby, and actually she used both facilities. And she is, you know, baby Sophia is fantastic, and they can't speak highly of the care that they got from the team here. They absolutely talked to everybody how fantastic it was. And so for me that's a personal family delight and a pleasure as a professional. So I couldn't commend the team to you more highly than that really, than they delivered my newest member of my family. Heather, is there anything you want to add from a nursing or middle, or any indeed from a nursing or midwifery perspective?
Well, I think I wanted to just continue with we are connected to the international nursing community because of our overseas workforce programme. We do go out into the world and recruit nurses from other parts of the world. Europe, the European community is one of the places we go, and the Philippines, South Asia. And of course, previously in previous years, we've been to the Caribbean and West Africa. So the Commonwealth that you referred to, I can absolutely connect with that. I'm from Trinidad myself.
Just come from there.
Yeah,
Great
yes.
place.
I
I
know.
know you haven't been there.
Oh, bless you. I'll give you the check later. But my grandmother was a hospital matron and a midwife in Arima Hospital.
I lived in Arima.
So the connections, I mean, I could go on, but for us in the nursing community, there is something that we need to do better for nurses coming to England. Because of the pressures of nursing at the moment, what we have forgotten to do is what your father said to you. Do first with the heart, and the hand will follow. And I think the whole burden of coming to a new country, I experienced it in my early 20s when I came here to train, as you did. You're in a different country, you've lost your family, you're homesick, you were competent up to that point of not knowing what you're about to experience. And I think previously there was time given for us who came from different countries to be part of that. And now we are quite busy. Diseases, treatments, they're more complex, and we have a lot of regulation being applied to staffing levels. And I think that pressure is getting in the way of us actually including people from different countries in our workforce. And I think that is going to get better, because I was at a conference yesterday where our nurse leaders are recognising that. And we are going to throw some better emphasis on how we integrate the international nursing community here in England, because you and I have fantastic stories about what we gained coming to this great country. And I will echo what Suzanne and Philip have said, which is we feel absolutely humbled to have the jewel of your country, jewel of Somalia here with us, the Muslim Mother Teresa. And we are desperate to show you what we deliver in terms of high quality services. Our medical colleagues, our doctors, our obstetricians, I gather they're going to come later on to listen to your talk. They've rearranged their training.
Yeah.
Well, it's their turn for half an hour.
They're coming later on to listen to you, because these are issues absolutely dear to us.
Thank you.
And the only thing to add before I have to dip out and I'll be back to see you later, is to say, I firmly believe that this is the start of a fantastic connection and relationship between, and we can build on the work that Ian and John and David, but others have done to connect us with you, Edna, and with our nursing and midwifery sisters and brothers in Somaliland. And I am absolutely keen that we take this opportunity forward into the future and think about how we connect and what opportunities we can create both for our teams and colleagues back in Somaliland to come and keep coming together and learning from one another, because yes, we've got a fantastic set of buildings and we've got great technology here and so on, but it sounds to me as if the essence of nursing and midwifery that you describe as the heart is absolutely the journey we're on. We're on no different a journey, and if we can do that in a way that brings that together and kind of capitalises on the opportunity we've got a very diverse workforce from many parts of the world, many different backgrounds, and get the best out of that together, that would be a fantastic achievement out of coming together today.
Yeah. Well, if I may add to that, when I was doing my midwifery, I was doing it my second part at Lewisham, and then we had to do domiciliary midwifery. I don't know if you still do that, but we had to do 3 months doing the home deliveries. And my referral hospital for the area where I was working, where I was being trained, Peckham and Oval and Lewisham and Kennington and Brixton, that was my beat, that was my area. And our referral hospital was King's College Hospital in Denmark Hill. And fate would have it that when I was building my hospital, one day, sitting under my tree, I had, the tree was my office. I had no office. The only place that had a shade was that tree. And three people actually, came to the construction site, a Somali, another person from the African continent, and a white man. So the laborers pointed at persons to where I was, and one of them, the white man, was Andy Leather, a colorectal surgeon from King's College, and Dr. Ahmed, who's a kidney expert, urologist, and the third person was someone who was very much involved in mental health. And they were there on a fact-finding mission in Somaliland, and they heard about this crazy old woman who was building a hospital, so they came to see it for themselves. And they said, well, how far are you? And I said, well, I've got the 3rd floor to put, I've got to put this in, I've got the pipes, I've got the sewage, we've got to work that out, and the septic tank. So we had some construction works yet to be completed. About 18 months down the road, hopefully the hospital would be open. And I said, how would you like us to support you? I said, well, when I do open, I would like a team, somebody to come out here and hold my staff, the nurses and I was training before the hospital was open, to come and show us how to run things. And because they haven't seen patients, we've had simulation, practical room, but that's really what I would really like you to do, come back when it's open. And they came so we kept in touch. 5 days after we opened, a team of 11 people came. There was a surgeon, there was obstetricians, there was an anaesthetist, there was a nurse, there was a midwife, there was a whole team of 11 people. And they arrived at 5 o'clock that evening. We had a woman who was in obstructed labor, and normally, and for the first 5 days we had opened, anybody who had complications, we took to the government hospital where there was or not help for them, but there was nothing else we could do. We had no anesthetists, we had no sterilizers, cut a long story short, they arrived at 5 o'clock. At 9 o'clock, they performed the first C-section operation in my hospital. Professor Peter Jackson got a live baby, and of course, beautiful mother and baby. That was our first C-section. They stayed with me for 2 weeks. We're still using the patient charts that they helped us develop. We're developing it there. The outpatients, the admission forms, the birth certificates, notification of birth, everything, the prescription, the lab things, we developed there at that time. And that was a team from King's College Hospital. Of course, they have grown too big. Internationally, they're connected with Tropical Health and Education Trust, billions of dollars. They work east and west. Thank you, east, west, and wherever. And but they still send us interns. Occasionally, we get interns who come and do 2 months or 1 month or whatever. We get them from Bristol. We get them from Cardiff. Now the biggest number of people who come to us come from Australia. All the way from, because there's the Australian Doctors for Africa. They send us supplies, things they don't need, things they no longer have a need for.
A partner who, who can fill the gaps that have become created when these previous partners, who are still our partners, have found other pastures, bigger pastures, greener pastures to go and visit.
Something we could definitely
We have also had the privilege to send some of our staff to other places. I mean, Geneva just trained 2 midwives for me in the care of premature babies. And of course, we were holding our breath until they came back, thinking, I've done the best. Will they come back? Will I lose them? Because that's something that we all have to think about. We've also sent some people to King's College in Denmark Hill, a doctor and a nurse, and they've come back. We've sent some to go to Jordan, and they've come back. We've sent some to Bahrain, and they've come back. But we still have to keep that in mind, that if we do send them here, I would like assurances that my nurses will come back to me. And if any of you come, I can promise you I'll ship them out back. I'll hold them hostage for 1 week or 2 or whatever time they come to me. Sarah, you came for what, 1 month?
2.5.
2.5. It seemed like a week. And she's coming back again, so it wasn't too bad. I mean, that's in but we've had some wonderful people, and some of those, the most wonderful, there are 2 things I always enjoy, is when we fix a woman who had an obstetrical fistula, and who is desperate and abandoned, and she gets, surgically repaired. She's able to control her body secretion. She's in control of her life again. She's beautiful, she's clean, she's accepted, and she gets married or back to her husband, and she gets pregnant, and we deliver that woman by a C-section because we don't want that part to be reopened again. And there's that woman who had lost hope in herself, in society, a beautiful baby in her lap. I don't think there's anything that can measure the satisfaction it gives me. The second thing is when I have an intern, a 2nd year or a 3rd year midwife or nurse coming to us and goes back and finishes her training and comes back to us as a midwife and says, I want to give you 1 month or 2 of my time as a midwife, because you have stimulated the time that I spent here, taught me so much that I went back and I did this. So it's wonderful to, I hope that we can set up. We'll talk in detail about how.
That would be wonderful. I mean, Philip and I were at something yesterday, I think you referred to it, where we were with other in fact we were with the Secretary of State, the Chief Executive of the NHS, and the Chief Executive of NHS Improvement. So that's the 3 biggest men, I have to say, in the NHS at the moment. And they invited Don Berwick, who I'm sure you're aware of, who's a fellow of the IHI, International Healthcare Improvement Organisation based in the States. He gave us a presentation, and he sort of talked about what are the things you need to do as leaders, what do you need to enable in your colleagues to help people, reconnect with the values of the NHS that were established by Nye Bevan back in 1940. Whenever it was,
6 or something.
And one of the things he described was very important, was to create joy in the work. Absolutely. Create joy in the work and enable joy in the work. He also described something which I thought was brilliant, I wrote down, which was find all the stupid rules and then have fun together breaking them. So I'll be working on the break the rule week quite soon. But the joy in the work piece for me resonates. I've been thinking about how we put together kind of a corporate responsibility strategy for our organisation and start to give colleagues, I mean Heather talked about the pressure, and the pressure is, I mean the pressure that your teams will experience will be huge, and the pressure here is huge, but it probably comes from different places. And you know, we've been thinking hard, how can we create opportunities for our midwives and doctors and nurses to take time that refreshes and re-energises them in a way that enables them to come back to the environment refreshed and renewed and ready for the next challenge. And I think the kinds of opportunities you're describing to come and spend some time with you in Somaliland, or for even to spend time in this hospital with colleagues of yours, or I mean we've been talking about creating time for colleagues to go and spend time in local schools or go and work with the local authorities supporting the elderly in the community. Some, you know, contributing something important, but contributing in a way that's different from how you normally spend every day. And I can absolutely see this opportunity fitting really well in that philosophy. And you know, maybe we start small and we start to think about, you know, are there some young midwives in our team and maybe one or two obstetricians or core trainees who think, yeah, I'd quite like to go and spend a couple of weeks or a month in Somaliland, just helping, getting that experience, and we could sponsor that and support it, you know. I think that's something we'd be delighted to do, and make space here to learn from colleagues who might come in other ways.
I take your colleagues are prompting me for the agenda.
I know,
So there was a break for lunch, but obviously we're going to be speaking and everyone's going to be asking Edna, and I know Excellency Pastor Ali will be leading us shortly. But when your colleagues are asking the questions, having been to Somalia and Somaliland myself as a simple businessman, and but don't be confused, it's Somaliland. We walk around with our chairman, who's an ex-cabinet minister, MP, Sir Tony Baldry, with Ali. 3 times I visited last year, and you walk around safely. It is different, so because everyone, obviously outside of His Excellency and Edna, they think it's the same place. I've been to both. Trust me, it's not.
Yeah, no, I understand it wasn't the same place.
Yes, I know you haven't made that mistake, but anyone could.
But people will potentially.
They will,
no, I
and
understand that.
It's a huge
and it'll be
difference.
something that will put people off if they're worried about their.
If you have 4 hours spare, I'm sure His Excellency has a very political approach
I
on
just
that
want
one.
to jump in there and say, despite all the travel advice on the website of the Foreign Office, the most people that come to my office for visas are the government staff, Ministry of Defense, the Foreign Office staff. There's so many of them that are going to Somaliland, but we've been fighting to change that. But the situation they have is, they say if we change that and exclude Somaliland out of Somalia, it's political recognition, and that's what we are not ready to do it yet. But they know that we are safe, we are peaceful, and we have a country that is functioning in the best possible way in Africa. And they witness, all of them, that Somaliland is much, much better than any other country in the Horn of Africa. They themselves say, secretly.
Secretly.
And there is no one that has been to the country. People come back and talk to us when they come back. We actually facilitate visas for these people, and we do the easiest way that people don't have to go back to work and come back tomorrow for their visas. We do it in half an hour, and we say to them, wait for us, have a cup of tea, and in 30 minutes we give them the visas. So when they come back, they normally tell us about their experiences, and the experiences is always very positive, very, very positive, and we hope some of you will experience that.
Fantastic, we'll take you up on your offer.
So if I could just say on behalf of the board, the ethos you've expressed today is absolutely the ethos that the board wants to create. What I would say, we're all signed up to this, our most valuable asset is our staff, and that, I think that encompasses what you were saying. And also, on behalf of the board, I'm sure the board will be pleased about the visit today, and would certainly want to nurture the relationship that we begin today with you and with your ambassador.
say thank you to Ian and to his friend, and to the, of course, management of the hospital who welcomed Dr. Adnan with all open arms. And this is really, really a very tough work by my friend Ian and his friends. And it is really a situation where we need it to be. Somaliland needs professionals that can help us to train our nurses and our junior doctors. I think this is a very good opportunity for us, and as a government representative in this country, I really say to this hospital, thank you very much for all you have done, and to those people who have made it possible. And I hope other hospitals will follow suit. We will keep contacting them.
Thank you. Thank you.
Only behind your hospital, of course. They'll be second.
Yeah, absolutely.
We're the priority.
So we're going to have lunch now.
Can I just to explain who Sarah is? Sarah is someone who's really become my daughter. Is a great mother, but my adopted daughter, kind of. Sarah is setting up the Edna Hospital Foundation in the UK. There is a similar foundation in the US, but not in Europe and in the UK. And through her is how I happen to have, visited Trinidad and Tobago, because we were trying to improve our diagnostic imaging in Somaliland, and we needed someone to come and. There's a lot of people setting up X-rays. Taking X-rays without really understanding the danger of radiation to the person and to the operator, and thinking that taking an X-ray is like taking a picture, but not knowing that there is radiation involved. And that's how Sarah put out an announcement, and Dr. Alan Regisford, who happens to be from Trinidad and Tobago, came out to Somaliland, spent a month with us, visited many facilities in Hargeisa, in Gabile, in Boroma, and other places, and came up and made a recommendation so that we will be able to train X-ray technicians in the future who will be safer than the ones who are there now. So it's, we're branching out into nursing, midwifery. We've trained more lab technicians than anybody else. We trained more pharmacists. We've trained a total of 880 health professionals in the last 14 years. So training. That's that's the gift I want to leave behind for my people. The gift of knowledge, the gift of ethics, the gift of discipline, the gift of doing things the proper way. So it's a lot that needs fixing. A lot that needs. Yes.
The question I'd like to ask is,
Yes.
How long would it actually take to actually see results on, let's say, overall?
Okay.
How I mean, the training and that you do.
That's a good question. Thank you. Well, we're seeing the results even now, because these girls go back to their villages, go back to their regions, and we're seeing there's a dip in the maternal mortality, and there's more women being delivered by professionals. So the more of these girls we train, I think now we have a training program going in Boroma. We've got 2 programs in Hargeisa. We've got one in Gabile. We've got one in Borao. We've got one in, we're going to start one in Ergabo. So we have about 5 or 6 different training programs going on. So as the more we produce to get to that 1,000 quicker, the better. And who is helping us with this? Yes, I will. I have seen their hand. Well, we've got some supporters. When we have support, we appreciate it. When we don't have support, we still get on with it because it's got to be done. Thank you. Yes, sir.
I want to know, is this a private hospital, or is this have anything to do with the government?
Both.
And what I'm thinking, how fast your program, because it seems to be very successful in terms of the training and what you are doing, if that can be replicated
Yes.
with the help of the government,
Yes.
or is it that you are just
Yes.
running on your own steam?
Well, you've got to be a crazy old woman. That's an ingredient that you need all the time.
My father was a doctor. I was married to the president of the country. I'm known. I can, if I want to train astronauts tomorrow, say, I'm going to train astronauts, go to Mars. I can do it because I'm me. But I don't want to do it. I want things to be done by the book. So before I started training nurses, I started training midwives in Libya. When I first joined WHO in 1964, 5, 6, I was training midwives there. I started training midwives in my country. But today, when we came back from the war and we were setting up our own country, I wanted things to be done by the book. So what I did is I got the Ministry of Health to give me 2 or 3 people who knew something about health. Dr. Ali Sheikh Ibrahim, for instance, who was one of the first doctors who was trained in Aberdeen that we had. People from WHO, people from UNICEF. So we formed a 21-member curriculum development board. I had them hostage in my library with cakes and sambusas and biscuits for a month, and we developed a curriculum. And then we took the curriculum to the government. We said, think about it, tell us what we need to change. The government approved. I said, well, then in that case, sign it. And come back to me and say, Edna, this is the curriculum we want you to use. So I do it in a way, well, this is a private initiative. It's not government owned, it's a private, but it's a private non-profit in close collaboration with the government. So I use the national curriculum that was developed in my library, that has been approved by the government, and then give it back to me as the national curriculum. And that's how we do it. And then when we're training students, we get the ministry to have representatives with us in the selection. I want 40 students, I have 300 applicants. I want somebody from the Ministry of Education, someone from the Ministry of Health, someone from the Curriculum Development National Curriculum Committee, someone from the universities, and together we screen, test, examine the applicants to take the top 40. When they're trained, final exams are invigilated by the ministry. The certificate is co-signed by me and the Minister of Health, whoever the Minister of Health is. I'm on my 11th Minister of Health now. So that's the Ministry of Health diploma. But I have also my logo and the Ministry of Health. And that's how I want things to be done. I don't want someone to start something in the back, streets and say, oh, this is another midwife we've trained. If you're going to train, go through the proper process. They must be supervised. They must be registered. They must be regulated. They must be registered. And once I train them, I give them to the ministry. And it's the ministry who deploys them. They become civil servants. I get the cream, I get the picking. I take the top 2 or 3 that I keep as my staff because they've got qualities that I appreciate. And I want them to go into training others. I take them as clinical supervisors. I train them as tutors. I train them in my delivery room. I keep them as, but the remaining go to the ministry and get deployed elsewhere. How do I fund it? God only knows. I travel, I speak, I fundraise. I have a wonderful team in the United States who are really doing a lot of fundraising for us because we are the only hospital that feeds patients. And we're the only hospital that has a high standard of care, relatively, nothing compared to yours. And we're the only hospital that delivers poor people for free. Anybody that nobody else wants, they come to me. Anybody who's refugees that got nobody, they come to us.
And that's
Yes.
one of the reasons.
And that's why Sarah
join
is
you
setting
at
up in the Hospital Foundation in the UK. And one project that Sarah has funded is to send us a consultant from here to come and survey our imaging needs for imaging somebody from Trinidad and Tobago who also kindly invited me to his home and to his island where I've just come from a couple of days ago. So that's to answer I'll give you a long answer to a short question. That's who we are.
Thank you. I
Yes.
just, from the gentleman's question, when we was in Hargeisa in December,
Yes.
I asked you about you train the midwives for the government hospitals,
Yes.
but they
Yes.
don't pay you.
No, the government doesn't pay me. No, but they stay out of my hair.
They cooperate with you. Yeah,
They stay out of my hair.
that's quite a unique position.
Yeah. No, the government doesn't pay me. Well, they look a gift horse in the mouth. They give me $5,000 a year. Some years they add me to the budget, and I get $5,000 a year as a grant. It helps to pay for something. They give that to Ahmad University. They started giving an equal amount to Hargeisa University, Ahmad University, and Edna Hospital, 5,000, 5,000, 5,000. My 5,000 never grew. I think Ahmad University gets about 30,000 a year now. Hargeisa University gets something, 20 something. But that's okay. As long as, you know, I like to follow the regulations, the state regulations. But I also like the state to accept my regulations and my standards. That's my price. We will do things in my hospital my way. You don't want to do it my way? Get your own facility somewhere else. Here, I'm the only terrorist. This is my law. I like things to be done this way. So this is, you know, I respect the rules and regulations. I'm a citizen of my country who respects my country and my government. But the government also respects me. Because I want things to be done properly. It's for them. I've trained 880 health professionals. So I'm the lifeline. They need me. I'm a teaching hospital. I'm a referral hospital. I'm the one they run to when they need something. And I'm the one who's training others to go and stuff. Because I'm 78. I'm not going to be here for too long. I could get hit by a double-decker tomorrow. Who knows? Or now. I want this to be replicated. That's why I want my trainees to start training in Burao. Now we're going to start training in Gabo. Now we've started in Gabile. We've started training in Burao. My former trainees are training people in Ahmad University. That's how I want it. So, yes, they stay out of my hair. And they're better.
I wanted to just,
yes.
Well, you were mentioned this weekend by Ban Ki-moon for your work with female genital mutilation.
Yes.
And so I wondered if you could talk a
Yes,
bit
I
about
could.
that.
This is not Gaddafi's green book. I'm from Somaliland. I'm a Somali girl. And there are traditions that sometimes are very harmful to health. And being a girl who is affected, and being a midwife who's going to work every morning and trying to get a baby out of that part of the body that's been so damaged, does something to you. So I started to speak about it 40 years ago. Started a fight, picked up the first microphone in public and started speaking about FGM. And of course it was a disgrace. How could Dr. Adam's daughter speak about things like that? How could the former wife of this do something like that? It's shameful. But if I don't, who will? So anyway, in my fight against FGM, I also wanted to know where we're at. I love figures. I like statistics. I like to see where, what you learn, from epidemiology, tells you where you've been and helps you to plan for where you want to go. And we did the very first survey. You're gonna be surprised. I'm sure if I'm pregnant and I come to you, you're going to give me my antenatal book. Do you want to know how big our antenatal card is? That's the antenatal card. My name, my age, my height, my any pregnancies and my history, and some results. And then on the back they put in my findings. That's 2 sides of one sheet. And some people don't even have that. And then I thought, these women, I'm going to check them. I'm going to listen to their feet apart. I'm going to put her on the couch. I'm going to see if she's bleeding. I'm going to see if she has a discharge. I'm going to see if she has any vulval warts. I'm going to see if she has this and that. She's going to be captive. She's up there on the Trendelenburg. She's up there with her feet up. I'm looking between her legs. I have to. Why not also observe about what the condition of her vulva? So all I did was add 4 little lines to the antenatal card. FGM, yes. FGM, no. If it's a no, that's what I'm looking for. Thank you.